Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the library. Yes. I am so glad you are here. Thank you for coming. It is my true pleasure to be here in this room with all of you today for our city's first ever Children's Literacy Summit. Yes. First, you bet. My name is Andrew Medler, and I'm the President and Director of Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. And all of you who are here today, librarians and educators and advocates and community leaders and family members and caregivers, we are all united by a shared belief in the transformative power of reading. This summit is a gathering, yes, because it's important to come together. And it is also a reflection of the library's strategic goal of convening our region around the future of reading and learning and continuing the work of public libraries. We foster literacy, we enable exploration, and we make connections happen with all of our neighbors every day. And that opens doors to learning and education for everyone. This is really an ideal time for us to come together here in September. It is the first full month of the school year. It is National Literacy Month. And right here at home, it is Love Your Library Month all over Allegheny County. And I can tell we have a room full of library lovers here today. Our guiding objective here is bringing our region together to think boldly and collaboratively about children's literacy. What does it mean to raise strong readers in today's world? What does it mean to break down barriers that exist to that happening? And how can we, as a community, how can we come together to ensure that every single child in Pittsburgh has access to the joy and the power of literacy for their futures? Now, this work and these questions, this is not new for public libraries. It's embedded into who we are. For generations, libraries have served as trusted community spaces, places where curiosity is sparked, where reading journeys begin, and where lifelong learning is nurtured. As we look ahead, today is an opportunity to listen and learn, and my hope is that this summit equips everyone here with new tools, new perspectives, new partnerships, and the ability to advocate effectively and take meaningful action to advance children's literacy across our region. Because, here's the spoiler alert, this work requires all of us together. So, a few housekeeping issues here before we get into the thick of things. If you need a quiet space during the summit, there is one that is available in the director's conference room in the first floor of the library. And you can ask any library staff member for assistance, and we'll help you get there, right? We'll help you find your way around the library. For Pennsylvania educators in the room, a reminder that you are eligible to receive 3 hours of Act 48 credit for attending today's summit. And there'll be a sign-in sheet for that at the CLP table in the resource fair, which is on the second floor of the library beginning at noon. Now, we're here today because of this mission and this purpose, as I said, and because of the incredible support and passion of our partners. I want to thank all of our fellow literacy-related organizations who, I called and said, hey, let's have lunch and talk about children's literacy. And they said where and when, and they showed up. And, after a lot of protein grain bowls, we are now here today, finally together. So thank you to all of these great folks. Want to thank all of our resource fair partners as well. Incredibly valuable support that they are providing. The idea of the resource fair is that this is a place where members of our community who are looking for support in their literacy journey can meet all of the amazing organizations committed to this work in our region and find the one or the ones that are the right fit for them. So you'll have the opportunity to meet together in the resource fair this afternoon, And again, it's about working together for literacy. A heartfelt thanks to the parent and caregiver ambassadors who are here today. And I'm really thrilled that they have offered to share their wisdom. Yes, applause. They're sharing their wisdom and experience with everyone in our community. So if you are looking for guidance, support, or simply someone to talk to about what can sometimes be the challenging journey towards family literacy and helping your child, they are here to help you with that. And that will be in the Parent and Caregiver Cafe on the second floor of the library. So please stop by. Our neighbors are our greatest resource, and they're there for you. And in this space, we also invite everyone to contribute to our asset-based community development approach to supporting children's literacy by sharing your own experiences and insights. We want to hear, what children's literacy resources do you already use, and how are they helpful to you? How would you like to help other people? And what do you want to learn, and how can the library and our partners help you to learn those things? Everyone's voice is essential in the future of literacy in our community, so please, everyone, contribute yours. I want to especially thank the Grable Foundation, whose commitment to children's learning continues to make transformative work like this possible. Thanks to the incredible Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh team, who has worked diligently to bring this day to life. I want to especially thank Erin Zambatero and our children's and teen staff, Jocelyn Kunick and Jordan Barone from our event team, Emma DeLuz-Klein, our coordinator of reader services, and the incredible, amazing, impactful, and awesome coordination skills and talents and gifts of our coordinator of strategic initiatives, Lauren O'Keefe, who made this day possible. Please. We have amazing support from our tremendous Board of Trustees, and I am so honored and delighted that so many of them are with us here this morning, led by our board chair, Mr. Mark Brown. Thank you, trustees, for everything that you do. We're deeply grateful to the Allegheny Regional Asset District for their incredible support in ensuring with us as partners the equitable service of public libraries all over Allegheny County for every resident of every age, every day. Their partnership allows us at Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh to provide that, and for all libraries in Allegheny County to reach further, to serve more, and to dream bigger on behalf of our community. And I would especially like to take a minute to recognize Judge Frank Lucchino, Emeritus Library Trustee and past board chair, not to mention my fellow library zealots, for his incredible support and encouragement of this summit and all of our early literacy work, and his lifelong dedication and commitment to Pittsburgh's youth. His passion has been for helping children thrive, and it continues to be a source of inspiration to so many of us, and we are very deeply grateful for his leadership and his heart. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. I truly believe, and I say it many times every day, that we are here to help each other. And today's program brings together some of the brightest minds and the boldest voices in education, policy, and youth development. And to officially wrap up me talking for a while so you can hear their voices is a leader who I'm honored to know and to introduce, and who understands just how essential literacy is to the fabric of our city. So please join me in welcoming to the podium the Mayor of Pittsburgh, Mayor Ed Gainey.
First and foremost, I want to say good morning to everybody. Good morning. You know, I'm not one to come up here and just have a conversation unless I mean what I say. And I've been affiliated with the library for a number of years, but more on the consumer side than being someone that partners and comes to every event that they have. And the reason why I believe in it and I come to every event that they have, that through the years that I've been a consumer, always coming to the library, I've never seen it more aggressive than I see it today in regards to reaching out to neighborhoods, being able to make sure that the mission gets accomplished, and even having the first literacy summit today. That is special. And I told Andrew many times that he's been a tremendous partner and a tremendous advocate. Excuse me. And a tremendous ambassador for this Carnegie Library. And without a tremendous ambassador, you always have an executive. But I tell people the difference between an executive and an ambassador is that many people come to be an executive, but that's what they do because it's an important role and an important title. But I think it's different when you're special. I think it's a different type of love that you pour into the work that you do. And so sometimes we get off on the title of saying CEO, but today I like for you to give the ambassador of literacy in the libraries a warm welcome in Andrew, because he really put something together. That's the truth. So with that, I'm going to just be brief, since I just want to say a couple things about literacy and why I believe the day is so special as being the first one that we're going to have. And I also would like to thank all the partners who participated in this, because without collaborative leadership, we don't build literacy power. And so to see everybody here today who participated in this is what I want to say thank you to. You know, we talked about literacy in regards to why it's important. So I'm going to explain to you why literacy is important to me, and I'm going to say it in 3 different ways, and then I'll be done. One is that we all know, at least I know and you know, that literacy builds confidence. And in a young child, particularly a young child coming from areas of poverty, underserved neighborhoods, where education and academics may not always be talked about, it hurts us. It hurts us because we really don't understand why reading is fundamental in the underall tone of why we need to be able to learn how to read and the confidence that it builds. And we always talk about it from that point of view, of a confidence point of view, because we want our children to feel confident as they begin to grow up, and we know that reading provides that. But I think we need to take it a step further. Reading provides hope. See, the hope of a better tomorrow is how you read today. If you read today, then you will have a promise of a better tomorrow, because you can understand that there's not a word that you cannot learn. So when you come across a word that you don't know, you don't have no problem looking it up. And now Google, it used to be dictionaries when I was a kid. Now they just Google everything. So you can look on Google and find out exactly what the word means. And that builds hope. And if I can install confidence and hope in any child, then where that child's dream can take him is so much further than what he even knows. I'm exposing him to a higher quality of life. Because hope in the child allows him to be able to know that there's a book out there that I'm going to get intimate with. That book that's going to teach me about me. That book that's going to feed my hopes and dreams. If I read and gain confidence, I can have hope in a better tomorrow. And if our children understood the hope that they could have off of reading, we wouldn't have a problem with literacy. We just wouldn't have one. The other part of why literacy is so important is because it breaks poverty. It destroys poverty. Don't get me wrong. I like workforce development programs. I think they're great. Every kid should have a skill. So I want to make sure I say that. For someone to say I ain't like workforce development programs. So I believe in workforce development programs. I believe every kid should have a skill. I said that, right? Okay. Right. But the reason why I'm bringing it up in this connotation is because it's a little bit different. And we have yet to really unlock the power of literacy. See, America serves 2 masters. It serves democracy and it serves capitalism. In our schools, they teach us democracy so that we can grow up understanding why we need to be involved in the voting process and everything else. But what they don't teach is capitalistic tools. So that part of literacy, they leave ignorant to those that's growing up in a poverty mindset. And if we don't begin to teach capitalistic tools to destroy poverty mindset, then reading alone just can't be because I can read. Reading alone got to be the hope for a better tomorrow. So if I understood capitalistic tools, such as stocks and bonds, taxes, real estate, and everything else that goes to moving money, I won't have to worry about living a street life. I can live my life. I won't have to worry about having a poverty mindset. I can have a mindset that says I'm able to grow because I have a literacy and understanding capitalistic tools. That's the workforce development that breaks the chains of poverty. And then the last one that I want to leave you with is what I said earlier, is intimacy. When I really start taking reading serious, because see, I have to read every day now, or I feel like I boarded the day. So I read every day to find words I don't know. Because I've never been able to get intimate with me until I've learned how to read things that was above me. And the more intimate I got with myself, it increased the amount of reading that I did. So reading from a literacy standpoint also means intimacy with self. Because the more that you become intimate with self, challenges such as COVID-19 don't scare you. Challenges such as housing don't scare you. Challenges such as poverty no longer confine you. You know how to break through. Because as I told a group of young kids a couple days ago, that poverty is not a poor condition. Poverty is a mindset. Because you still have teachers, police, politicians, people that work in the library that are extremely literate, but still living check to check. So that means literacy stops just at reading and not understanding capitalistic tools that makes you more intimate with yourself. And knowing that you're more intimate with yourself gives you the ability to break some change and be able to not just grow old, but grow up in another lifestyle that allows you to leave a legacy for those that come behind us. As we talk about literacy, talk about breaking the chains of poverty, talk about making sure that they can read for hope, and more importantly, let them get intimate with themselves so they can grow up and not grow old. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor, so much for being here and your commitment and dedication and passion. It means the world to our city. Thank you. The Grable Foundation, as I said, has long also been a champion for children, education, and equitable access to learning. And their support has made today's Children's Literacy Summit possible, and their commitment to fostering curiosity and literacy in our youngest learners is deeply, deeply aligned with the library's mission as well. So please, please welcome to the podium Tracy Arment, Senior Program Officer for the amazing, fantastic, and appreciated Grable Foundation.
Okay, so just a word of advice. Don't ever follow the mayor. Do not. But I'm really excited about this project. I'm excited as a representative of the Grable Foundation to be here. One of the really amazing things about working for Grable is our whole goal is to improve the lives of children in southwestern Pennsylvania. So what other happier work can we do? The other great thing is people come to me all the time with brilliant ideas and then lob praises on me when they implement these brilliant ideas. Like, it's not a bad gig if you can get it. But not only is our real focus on improving the lives of children connected with what the library is doing today, and the library does every day, such a great partner of ours. I personally am a recovering high school English teacher and a straight bibliophilic book nerd. I am. So I made it a point in my adult life to never say I love, to never use the word love in describing how I feel about inanimate objects. I love tacos and I love books. Like, those are the two exceptions. So it's one of the things that I find so heartbreaking is that as much as literacy is a very practical tool, right? We need to be able to read at a functional level in order to participate fully in society. And as much as we know that, and as much as we aspire to have everyone able to do that, our ability to participate and to function in our democracy, we see that literacy is closely connected to our ability to participate and function in democracy. And we see that now in ways that I've never seen it before in my life. So I feel like this work is urgent, and it is what will help us save our democracy. I mean, no pressure, but it is what will help us save our democracy. The other thing that I think about, being a book lover and a book nerd, it breaks my heart when I know that there are people who can't access literature in a really sort of fundamental, deep way. It's heartbreaking, and I don't want anyone to live that way. And so literacy is not just about the practical. It's about contemplating ideas and getting to know other people and places. Walter Smith used to always say that you cannot hate someone if you know their story. Literacy helps us to know others' stories. And so if we can't do that for our kids, we need to fold it up and let's just go home. I said that I was a high school English teacher. And so in my 3 long years in the classroom, I worked in a pretty well-resourced small town school district. If you're an education nerd, like I'm an education nerd, I'm looking at you, Shallegra. If you're also, if you're ever looking at school districts to follow because they just do smart things, Frederick County, Maryland, that's where I taught high school English. It's one of the districts that you should just look at what they're doing. They're doing great things. But the kids in our district were, by and large, 90% of them were reading on grade level by 3rd grade. They got to high school, everything was going swimmingly. About a dozen kids were not able, in high school that I came across in my classroom, were not able to read at a functional level. So much so that one boy brought me a Ziploc bag full of greeting cards so that we could go through them and figure out which ones would be appropriate for his girlfriend, his mom, his grandma, his aunts. That was his level of reading was such that he needed help with that sort of basic kind of task. Every single one of that dozen kids was a boy, and every single one was in abject poverty. In a community where poverty, we didn't have a lot of poverty in Frederick, Maryland. Like in the hinterlands, way out in the rural areas of Frederick, there was some poverty. But in the city, it wasn't, we didn't have a lot of poverty there. And it strikes me, this was many years ago. I won't say how many. But it strikes me that we're here because those kids were dispensable. So one of the things that I want us to think about is by teaching kids, by exposing young people to literacy, we are saving lives, we're saving ourselves. And that's the level of sort of seriousness with which I take this work. So thank you so much for bearing with me. Thank you for this work, and I really appreciate the opportunity to partner. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And now it's my pleasure to officially welcome our opening speaker. Correction, our fabulous opening speaker. They're an educator, advocate, and leader shaping the pathways for students across our region. Dr. Shallegra Moye is the Director of Educational Enrichment and Transition Programs at the University of Pittsburgh School of Education and the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Brilliantly Blessed Community Health and Wellness. Her work has helped countless young people thrive during some of the most critical transitions in their academic lives. So please put your hands together to welcome to the stage Dr. Shallegra Moye.
All right, did they turn my mic on for me? Okay, ooh, the mic is on. Good morning, everybody, good morning. First of all, thank you, Andrew. Every time I hear someone read my bio or introduce me, the first thing I think is, damn, she's pretty fabulous. And she's me, right? And so very grateful to be here. And I also wanted to share with Tracy that we are not nerds, we are intellectuals, because intellectuals are fancy. And so with that, I'm here to talk to us about whose job is literacy. And I want to begin by expressing how delighted I am to be with you all this morning as we discuss, envision, and activate our collective superpowers to advance children's literacy. But before I begin, I must shatter the disillusionment. I did not arrive all put together. Let's sigh, I know, right? I may have 7 bookshelves at home today, an Amazon cart that has 15 to 20 books in it at any given time, and I travel with a book on my person, including today. I actually entered kindergarten here in the city of Pittsburgh unable to read. And I traversed all the way through 3rd grade unable to read. I didn't know how to spell my name. Granted, Shallegra has a lot of letters. I didn't know colors, I didn't know shapes. And here's what's interesting about that. I was raised by a wonderful, wonderful foster family. They loved me dearly. They ensured that I had every basic need and even a few wants. I had toys, I had crayons, I had coloring books. I had Sesame Street coming into my living room on a black and white television 5 days a week. So they were sure that I would eventually get it, right? They did their part by enrolling me in school. Interestingly, though, my caregivers believed, they actually had the audacity to expect that since they sent me to school every day, the people there who received the salary would teach me how to read. I know, I can hardly believe it myself. During my young life, I eventually moved to another city with another family who also did their part. They immediately enrolled me in school. They made sure I was clean, I was fed, I was loved, and they got me to school every single day. And once again, my caregivers expected the school to do their job in teaching me what I did not know. What is interesting about this is that their philosophy, which is not very different than my own as an educated and resource caregiver, was that children are sent to experts to teach them the things that we cannot. As I reflect back, I can only imagine that committed teacher that I encountered in Maryland, interestingly, Baltimore City though, must have been a contemporary of Dr. Rudine Bishop Sims, knowing way back in 1982 the importance of windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors in the materials that are used to teach literacy. So you see, this intellectual, fabulous badass that stands before you today is the culmination of people, multiple people, with diverse skills, unwavering commitment, and dedication to do their part of the job of children's literacy. And while Dr. Rudine Bishop Sims encourages us to provide books that are the windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors children can access literacy through, I believe wholeheartedly that those of us who embrace the job of children's literacy also offer this through our practices, how we are engaging with children and families. Diverse characters and stories in books are windows that offer children the opportunity to immerse themselves in different worlds, real and imagined. Oral storytelling and dialogue become the sliding glass doors that children go through to become an extension of that world. And lastly, books that are read to children and stories and conversations that we have with children can be a mirror that reflects back the beauty, the possibility, and the joy of literacy. I still remember vividly the joy and excitement and wonder of a book that was called Barbie Visits the Yucatan. I don't know how many of you all were around in that day, and where's the mayor? Because I Googled that forever and I could not find any evidence of it. But it was a book, and I don't know how I got it in my possession, but I remember I read that book all the time and thought about what it meant to be a global traveler, right? Someone gave me a book about the Berenstain Bears family. I know we all remember Berenstain Bears, right? But my God, did that open up so much possibility for me, particularly as a kid who, while I had loving families around me, there was still so much instability in my life as a child. And the Berenstain Bears showed me that stability and love and care and patience was possible. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you about the copy of the Vogue magazine I received at 10 years old that really awakened my lifelong love of all things fancy. I promise you, it is where I seen the first picture of a Mercedes-Benz, and I knew at 10 years old, I needed to have one of those in my life before I left. Thank you, Jesus, I've had two. Amen. However, we can only be windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors to children we are in authentic relationships with, where trust and care have been sustained. That was what that teacher back in Baltimore did for me. She seen the need, and she decided to fill that need. She built a relationship with me. She asked me about what was going on in my life. She listened, she cared, and it was obvious to me. When we trust in, when we sing to, when we laugh and read and talk with children, we're actually giving them the most important gifts we can. And while parental and caregiver relationships are primary, they are absolutely not proprietary. Children grow and develop and move within an ecosystem of adults who have a responsibility and hopefully a commitment to ensuring a child's literacy journey is enriching. To be clear, I have never met a parent or caregiver, nor do I know anyone, and if you know me, you know I know a lot of people, who has ever met a parent or caregiver who doesn't want their children to read, learn, and otherwise thrive, okay? And because some of you are probably still awake because it's early in the morning, I'm going to repeat that. I have never, nor have I ever met anyone who has ever met a parent or caregiver who doesn't want their children to read, learn, and otherwise thrive. All of us in this room have a responsibility to disrupt the pervasive and privileged narratives about what is or is not happening in the homes of families that we've never actually been in. Probably wouldn't even be invited to because of some of the things we think about them. That responsibility extends also to disrupting those narratives within our organizations and among those we collaborate with. So the next time somebody tells you families don't, families can't, families aren't, you tell them, stop right there. Stop right there. Have you been to that? So then you can't tell me that, right? Stop shaming families who do not have the socioeconomic luxury of time. I need to say that again. Time is a socioeconomic luxury that many families do not have. And we know this. So stop making them feel bad about that. Instead, let's offer them tools to promote literacy, tools like the gift of books, using their tech for story time, identifying literacy champions around them, and encouraging them to simply talk to their children about what's going on in their world. To be sure, children who cannot read have not been taught how to read, and that cannot be visited upon any family. There's a compensation and health and welfare benefits package given to folks whose literal job it is to do that, and there's a deep philanthropic investment being made here in our county to literacy organizations. So this brings to mind several questions for me, and I hope that you're wondering these same questions also. The first question that this brings to mind for me is, within my sphere of influence, within your sphere of influence, what role can you play in ensuring that everybody knows they have a part in the job of children's literacy, right? Because so often we're like, what are they doing? I wonder if they're doing. What am I doing? And where am I doing it at? Because we all have a sphere of influence. The second question this brings to mind for me is, within my sphere of influence, how can I support the acquisition of tools for families and caregivers to promote literacy? And because, if you know me, you know I like the Migos. Don't tell anybody. I only listen to the clean radio edit version. But one of my favorite Migos songs is Walk It Like You Talk It, right? And so to that end, I have purchased 8 gift cards to the Young Dreamers bookstore for parents who are here today. And Miss Antonia Kimball, Miss Alani Mosley, who's probably over in the resource room, Miss Amy Carpenter, and Mrs. Demara King, you've got Young Dreamers book gift cards coming to you, and they'll figure out who those other 4 parents are, right? Because we have to walk it like we talk it. One of the things I also do is I'm found in classrooms all across Allegheny County. Putting the fun in reading is fundamental. You've not had fun until you had story time with Dr. Moye. If you have an organization, if you have a school, holla at me. I would love to come read my 2 favorite books to the students in your organizations. This last question that comes to mind for me that I really want us all to think about is, how do we collectively demand results from the organizations that receive monetary support to improve literacy among children who still can't read? For some reason, education remains one of the only professions, actually the only profession I'm aware of, where positions remain available to folks who produce 0 evidence of growth, improvement, or fidelity. Can you imagine a medical doctor who only catches 20% of the illnesses presented before him or her? Right, we're laughing, but could you imagine? You can't. They'd be unemployed. Listen, I don't watch sports. I don't like sports. When teachers, social workers, police officers get paid, with athletes get paid, then I might become interested, but until then, no. But heaven forbid the Steelers lose a game, and the entire western half of the state collectively organizes the call for Coach Tomlin's firing. Immediately, he's got to go. He's been here too long. He can't win a game. We need to bring that same kind of resolve to our schools, to our school boards, to our superintendents, to our literacy organizations. I'm just saying. You know, when I think about my love of literacy, my love of children, what I want for other people's children, shout out to the one and only Dr. Lisa Delpit, but what I want for other people's children is the same that I want for the children in my family, right? The mayor made an interesting point about this workforce development initiative That is amazing. That is necessary. Every child needs a skill. But I have to tell you, I sat in a day-long symposium on Thursday, and I watched a parade of advanced degree-holding people talk for 8 hours about other people's children going into workforce development. And I found that curious isn't even the word. Like, I got a lot of words. And I was like, wait, PhD, 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 EDD, MBA, MBA. You've all gone to college for a long, long, long time. But curiously, you stand here and persuade us to tell some segment of children not to go to college. And so my question was, where do you tell your children to go? That was rhetorical. But what I'm saying is, when I hear people saying things like that, I just want to know where you tell the children in your family to go. Because that's where I'm going to tell the children in my family to go. And you can do both. They're both very important, right? But there's this way that we kind of slice out opportunity for a particular segment of people, and everybody else should just kind of be okay. But I want every child to have the joy of reading. I want every family to feel good about being able to put the tools of literacy in their children's hands, even if they cannot be the ones to read that story to them at night. They've at least got the books in their homes, right? I truly believe that until we all embrace this viewpoint, that other people's children have to matter as much as our own, we're going to continue to have these same conversations. We're going to continue to see the same results, and they're going to be visited mostly upon the populations of children who continue not to be served well. Before I close, I want to share with you a poem that I was inspired to write by this lovely invitation from the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh's first annual Children's Literacy Summit. Can we clap that up? This is a big deal. This is a big deal. And it is no small thing that I have been asked to open us up for our first annual Children's Literacy Summit. Someone who loves children, someone who loves literacy. So, I'm going to invite you to something my friends and colleagues call Storytime with Dr. Moye. And I've wrote this poem, and it's called Read to Our Little Ones. Let's read to our little ones often, and it can happen with a story from a book, signs at the bus station, and sharing what we have in common. Let's read to our little ones because it's fun. Whether it is a story read or told by the moon or the sun's light, let's do it before the day is done. Let's read to our little ones about the beach, the mountains, the present, and the past. We must read to our little ones every time we can and remain steadfast. Let's read to our little ones often and in every space, and before long, our little ones will be able to read to us, and surely that will bring a smile to our face. I just want to tell you as I close and get ready to hand off the next part of our day to this illustrious panel, I believe children grow, develop, and move within an ecosystem of adults who have a responsibility and hopefully a commitment to ensuring a child's literacy journey is enriching. And I also believe that children's literacy is everyone's job. And just as it is with other work, our society will be compensated with confident, literate, thriving members building the future. Thank you all so much. Should I give this to him?
Dr. Moye, everybody. Thank you. She's being She's being de-mic'd at the moment, but I want to say thank you for walking and talking every day. Thank you.
It is
What an
my honor and pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we turn to a conversation that is really at the heart of today's summit. We have an illustrious, as was said, and thought-provoking panel continuing further the discussion of whose job is children's literacy. So, as we begin, I'd like to invite our panelists to the stage. Please come on up, everyone. Dr. Collin Diedrich, co-founder and executive director of the Learning Disabilities Association of Pennsylvania. Dr. Kyle Fahsel, director of mentoring at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. Antonia Kimball, parent advocate and studio manager. Erin Rudegeair, library services supervisor of school partnerships at Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. Dr. Caitlin Spear, director of literacy and learning at Pitt's Office of Child Development. And Naomi York-Abduollah, K-5 English Language Arts Curriculum Coordinator at Pittsburgh Public Schools. Welcome, everyone. And now welcome to our amazing moderator, Cynthia Battle, who is the founder of Taarifa Readers and Storytellers, and she is a passionate literary and literacy leader in our community who has spent her career bringing stories to life for young people and making reading accessible and joyful and empowering for all of our children. And I want to thank her particularly for her incredible service and contributions to our CLP Best Books for Babies work. So thank you for that, and enjoy the panel. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. Every interesting conversation should start like this. Hello, 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 and how are you? I'm fine, and I hope that you are too. When we talk about our children, literacy, and where it's gonna take them, hey, you gotta start off with a smile, always with a little song or something. So I don't wanna take up a lot of time because we only have an hour. We have the most interesting, intelligent group of panelists, sorry. I'm a little nervous, this is my first time, but I'm very excited because I love children, I love literacy, I love you guys, and I'm so respectful of these people here. So without any further ado, let's get this thing together, okay? Hello, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Yep. Good. So, let's start the conversation off with Caitlin.
Yeah.
What exactly is literacy, and what age does literacy start?
Okay, these are the big questions. So, hi everybody, I'm Caitlin Spear. I work at the Office of Child Development. I'm the director of our Literacy and Learning Division, and I get to work with Shallegra and amazing colleagues and communities on our 3 R's program, which stands for Reading, Racial Equity, and Relationships, amongst other things. And literacy is really, I think, and this isn't just me, I'm citing lots of people there, it's a fundamental human right? Literacy, and a fundamental human existence, right? We often think of just reading and writing and the skills of that, but it's language, it's connection, it's relationships, as Shallegra was saying. So it's all of these things. If I'm gonna be a technical and put on my Science of Reading hat, it's actually here on my shirt. But I always talk about the simple view of reading, right? We're thinking about to read, children need word recognition skills and then language comprehension, and you need both, right? You can't have one without the other to get to purposeful meaning making. And there's lots of skills and components of that kids need in order to engage in that process of reading. But reading and literacy are meaning making. They're rooted in language. When we think of it developmentally, right, it starts at birth and it is rooted in language. We often think, when does reading start? Right, in kindergarten? No, that is not when reading starts, right? It's starting all the way through. I think when we're thinking developmentally, reading is not natural, but language is. Most humans are sort of hardwired for communication, for language. And so all of the things around talking, playing, interacting, singing, being in relationships, making meaning together, that all of that foundational work that we are doing with babies, that you see Enzo doing literally in every interaction he's been having today. We have a perfect model. That is all part of literacy development. And then when we get into the reading work, right, kids need explicit systematic instruction in aspects of reading, but they also need opportunities to think, to connect, to be in relationship, to read rich, beautiful text, to discuss, to think. So really all of these things are literacy, and they're developing, and there's different aspects of it, but it really is this full across childhood from birth through adolescence.
Wow.
Does that capture it?
I think it captures
Awesome.
it very well. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'd like to ask Antonia, like you got your beautiful son here, what are some of the things a young parent or parents or caregivers could do to promote early literacy?
Hi, everybody. This is Enzo. So some of the things that I do on my day-to-day is, especially now, like just trying to really focus as I know that he's, growing every day and understanding more and more, is pointing out things and talking to him about what I'm doing, about what's going on around us. I bring him to the library several times throughout the week. I think it's great also for socialization because there's other kids there. And just to get him used to books and picking up books and showing me what he's interested in, even if he's trying to eat the books. He's still interacting with them, and I think that's great. So, right, we want to consume our literature, so that's and as like a bilingual parent, that's something that I've been focused on, is like speaking both like English and Spanish with him. So it can be difficult at times, like just with being tired. But it's something that I try to do in addition to like baby sign language. But if you're able to introduce like multiple language at an early age, I think that's like great, and I definitely would like be encouraging that to like other parents. And another thing that kind of came to mind as I heard the first speakers is that, I don't think literacy, like for myself, I've always thought it was important, but it's definitely become more important to me, like my own literacy and improving my own literacy for the sake of like Enzo and making sure I'm a good example, and so I can teach him and help him grow. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just want to ask you something. I'm kind of curious because you mentioned bilingual. How difficult is it to read to him in English and in, Spanish?
Spanish.
And is it harder, you think, for him at his age, or would it be harder for someone like at 5?
I think it's, from what I understand, I'm not an expert, but from what I understand, like they're sponges, so I think just consistency and making sure that like I am doing both, and even like trying to, if there's a book in English or Spanish, or if it has both, just making sure that both are being said so that he's getting both languages. I think it can be tough at times, but again, it depends on like energy levels, the day. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, thank you so much. That's good. Well, Erin, why don't you tell us? Hi, nice seeing you again. What counts as reading?
Everything.
Okay.
But seriously, I think it really depends who you ask, but for us at the library, absolutely everything counts as reading. Even Enzo sticking the board book in his mouth, that is consuming books, that is, that's the beginning of print motivation and him holding books and interacting with books and being excited about them. So literally for us, everything counts as reading, from the controversial, does audiobooks count? It counts. Does graphic novels count? It counts, absolutely. And as Dr. Moye's poem beautifully pointed out, literacy and the opportunity to practice literacy skills is all around us. From the bus stop, the stop sign, the grocery store, to the library, to the books at home, and absolutely everything in between. the opportunities just surround us when you have the energy for it, right? When you can to, narrate everything that you're doing and to constantly interact and talk and respond. All of that is helping children, grow their vocabulary, learn, call and response and interaction and dialogue. I read recently that kids these days are not actually reading fewer words. There's, a lot of talk about decrease in interest in reading, and kids aren't reading these days. But I was told, I read that they're consuming the same number of words, but it's in different mediums, right? So memes and on TikTok and, all over the place. So all those little things are adding up to a similar number of words. But as to Ms. Tracy's point earlier, it's not just about the practical, number of words. It's also about that critical thinking and that deep thinking. And we miss out on that when we truncate our reading into little bits and pieces. So we need both, and we need all of it. So absolutely everything counts for reading. And the only other thing I wanted to say is we think very much about reading as a stereotypical solo activity. And here at the library, we are all about joy and motivation of reading, and we do a lot of that through the social aspects of reading. So, I think the solo reading is great, and we probably all very much enjoy that time. But from everything, story times to book clubs, reading challenges like summer reading, and we're going to be starting winter reading challenges. Even we do Battle of the Books, a book trivia conversation, to really bring not just that solitary activity, but to make it communal and social. And I think that brings that motivation and love and comprehension and all of it, from eating the board book to engaging in dialogue about a book, it's all reading.
You brought something to mind when you mentioned that children are reading not the way they used to, but reading from social media and things like that. And it made me question or think, how is that going to impact their ability to read it, to spell? Because a lot of things online are, I don't know, IDK, I don't know, things like that. And I mean, just out of curiosity, if anybody knows if that's if that has a negative impact on their, I'm thinking spelling tests and things like that. I haven't been in school for a long time, so I don't know if you have an answer to that or a comment or something. What do you think?
So far, hello everyone, I'm Naomi, how are you? So far in our elementary schools, we're not seeing a negative impact with their spelling due to their social media activity. We use extremely systematic and explicit methods for teaching both decoding, which is reading, and encoding, which is spelling. And those have been tried and true and aligned with the science of reading. And so we do oftentimes, we'll say to students, we can use language differently in different spaces, and that's okay. So while you're interacting with family members, you may speak in a certain way, and when you're in school, and to a certain extent, but both are extremely valid and important. So if we are engaging in that conversation, it's not to say that one is standard and one is substandard. Sometimes you would hear it that way, like this is standard English and this isn't. Through the lens of culturally responsive instruction, we know that that's not the best approach, but we do embrace that, their home language. We do embrace their styles of communication, and so sometimes there are opportunities, even if they're writing a personal narrative with dialogue, or if they're writing in a fictional narrative, that they're going to use language that might be a little bit different than what we would see in our everyday conversations as adults. So we do honor that in our spaces, and teachers get a lot of training in terms of how to acknowledge and honor that in their classrooms while still maintaining that explicit and systematic instruction for literacy.
Okay, I was just thinking. Cal, how are you?
Good.
Cal, what roles do we play in shaping literacy development, and why are they so important?
Thanks, Cynthia. Hi, everyone. My name is Kyle Fahsel. And I'm the director of mentoring at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. And first, I'll just say I think Dr. Moye made so many great points on this topic. And so I'll just try to add on based on my life experience. First of all, I'm a father of 2 wonderful elementary age children. And what Dr. Moye said about the luxury of time, is really so true. And I think parents and caregivers feel that every day, trying to find little opportunities to build that literacy-rich environment at home. But they are there, right? And we have to keep pushing to find those moments to talk about the books that our kids are reading in school, to let our kids see us reading at home for pleasure and not on our phone. Or even to read what they're reading. I am a Dogman reader because my kids love Dogman, and I've read them all too, but that unlocks so many conversations I can have with them and help them build that connection of reading and literacy being a pleasurable, joyful activity. As a former educator who started as a reading teacher and ended up as an ELA department chair, curriculum and instruction coach, and eventually an assistant principal, what I'd add there is I think we have an opportunity to work better as academics and educators to span that research to practice divide, right? There is an ever-evolving body of literature on how to teach reading and writing, but sometimes it's hard to get implemented in schools. And so I appreciate having Youth Pitt OCD working with our schools and other community organizations to make sure that what we're all doing is informed by the best research and it's not getting stuck in the academic field and in the theoretical realm and actually making it into practice, because our schools should all really be designed in ways that our kids are not only receiving high quality instruction, but the structure of their day provides time both for the practice they need and the pleasure in reading, what delights them. I'm lucky to be here today representing Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh as well as other community organizations. Both Mayor Gainey and Dr. Moye said reading is fundamental, and I completely agree. And I just feel fortunate to be part of an organization that brings books and resources and motivational reading environments right to our families and kids in their communities. Last year, we provided over 87,000 engaging and culturally relevant books to kids in Pittsburgh's underserved neighborhoods. Yeah, thank you for a whoop. I feel really good about that. And there's many other partners who are doing the same, meeting families where they're at. Our mentoring program last year matched almost 200 volunteer reading mentors to read an hour a week with kids in schools. And I read with first and second and third grade mentees myself. And I see how in that role as a volunteer, as a community member, we can make significant impacts for kids, sharing our love of reading, guiding kids to explore new genres that they might not have ever considered, and helping them to view themselves as a reader. Because as Mayor Gainey spoke to, that unlocks so much for their life. I think the last thing I would say about, whose role, and as Dr. Moye and others have shared, it's all of our role. There's just other opportunities I try to remind myself to take, and I hope you think about too, where we can infuse literacy into our relationships with kids who maybe aren't our own children, our students, or our mentees. I think about, can I model for kids reading a book for pleasure on a park bench or in a restaurant or at a bus stop? Instead of buying toys for kids, could I buy them books? And could I adjust my reading diet to read more children's picture books and YA novels so that I can make a recommendation to a child and say, hey, I know you, you're gonna love this book. Or maybe I don't know you that well, but everybody loves this book, so test it out. And I think it's, looking for those little moments throughout our daily lives, in our personal lives, in our professional lives, where we can all work together and take on the collective responsibility, because as others have said, it's really all of our role, because every child deserves to learn how to read and to love reading.
Well said. I just wanted to say something about what you do at Reading is Fundamental. I know you read to the children once a week, and it's not always books, because some of them just don't want to read books. What other things do you have there, at your site?
Yeah, thanks. We want each of our weekly sessions that, run from October through the end of the school year to be a celebration of reading. So every week has a theme, maybe Elephant and Piggy Week, or Rainforest Week, or Dinosaur Week, and we curate books on that topic to try to catch kids' interest, but we also provide brain-boosting activities, because sometimes a kid might not be ready to read a book with their mentor, and instead might want to do a crossword puzzle, or a sight word coloring page for our first graders, of all different sorts of ocean animals. And that might be the ramp that gets them excited and gives them the confidence to try. But we also tell our reading buddies, who are all amazing reading buddies, that they, should meet a child where they're at. Some of our kids really need an adult to read to them. And it is so powerful when you can help a child access that literary world. Once again, like Dog Man, there's a movie, there are all these books, but if you're not able to read them, you can't be part of that literary culture that your friends or peers are part of. But we also have a lot of kids who can read and just need that encouragement and that support and that individualized attention. So, we are so grateful to work with Pittsburgh Public Schools, as well as many other, public charter schools, to have programs like this, to meet kids where they're at, and also continue to get books into their homes and connect with their families to make sure that every kid has whatever excites them to read.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Just wanted you to say that. Okay, how are you, Naomi?
I'm well, thank you.
Very nice to see you again.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Now, children's screen time is going up, and we're seeing a decline. We're seeing a decline in literacy skills like writing, cursive writing, and printing and things like that. Should we as parents, caregivers, and educators be concerned? And how can parents and caregivers balance the reading and screen time?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Naomi York-Abduollah, K-5 ELA Curriculum Coordinator for Pittsburgh Public Schools. Very grateful to be here today. So we see definitely an increase in screen time for our students, and interestingly enough, our students this year will take their state assessment in ELA and math starting in 3rd grade online. And so as we see the work evolve, even for us as adults, I know for some of us, we didn't grow up with technology, but we are quickly learning in today's world. And so we do want to capitalize on those opportunities for that media exposure, but also we keep in mind the critical skills that are developed when students are handwriting. There is a cognitive process involved as students are recording and thinking and processing complex ideas. And so we do actually still maintain handwriting as a taught subject in our K-5 schools in Pittsburgh Public Schools. We moved to cursive mastery beginning in 3rd grade, but students are taught that's part of their fine motor skills. And so even if they have a device with them or if they're utilizing it to read, we are still teaching them critical skills for note-taking, for graphic organizers, so that when they are asked to produce their writing, if they are asked to type, they go through that writing process, and that's where they can do the application. And many teachers have found the technology to be motivating in some way and in some cases, and can be helpful. And that's also part of our expectations as a school district and our PA core standards, is to make sure that students have guided opportunities to not only review what's online, but have a critical eye as they review online for valid resources and such. And so while it's something that many of us maybe didn't experience in our classrooms, or I think I watched a TikTok recently where a football player was giving honor to someone. He said, I remember in class when that cart would roll in, and you're like, oh, now it's time for a movie. So we do not do that, thank goodness, but some of us have that experience. It's more technology-based, where we have smart boards, where we're teaching them how to use the technology, so then they are, matriculating to high school, to college, they are literate in terms of how to use the technology to best support the things that they want to achieve in their life. And so we have done a lot to embrace the technology. And for a lot of our staff who may be like me, a little bit shy of technology, we have a lot of training for our teachers, because a lot of our students are digital natives, and we don't want our teachers to be behind the ball. So that's been critical for us, to make sure that we have those opportunities for our teachers to understand how to best use it, even AI in the classrooms, and developing appropriate policies so that we know what's acceptable use. But overall, we're not seeing so much of a decline as we are seeing just an increase that we need for oral language, for development, for critical thinking in this new age of technology. Technology has to be our friend. We use it every day, even many of us don't have even a rotary phone or a phone in our house anymore. We have our cell phones. So it's critical that we also include that in our educational settings as well.
Well, things have changed.
Yes, very quickly.
Whew, everybody getting all of this? Is it okay? Collin, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm so glad to finally meet you in person. You know what? What signs should a parent or a caregiver look for to see if their child has a learning disability? And I speak from that personal direction.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. So I'm Collin Diedrich. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Learning Disabilities Association of Pennsylvania, and we provide free reading instruction in various neighborhoods around the city. And I have multiple learning disabilities, so that's how I got into this space. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get my PhD in something other than this completely, but I was able to pursue that dream because I had parents that were that noticed I was struggling with reading. I had a lot of anxiety reading books, and I had difficulty writing my name. These are all things that parents early on, if you are seeing your child struggle with writing their name, if you teach them a word and they're like, oh, I got it, this is great, and it disappears in 2 minutes or the next day, a lot of times those are signs that you might have an issue with recall, with decoding what you are actually seeing. A lot of times also parents will note to me that their children, it's like, oh my God, my kid knows this book and is reading it out loud, but they're actually memorizing all of the words, right? And a lot of these are compensatory mechanisms that we use as people with learning disabilities to hide it, because it's embarrassing when your siblings can read proficiently and you have a difficult time doing it. You learn ways to hide it. So what's really important is, as parents and caregivers, is talking to your kids and seeing, are they avoidant with reading because they're having difficulty with it, or are they avoidant because they want to just play? These are all things that I think are really, really important. Other signs that that parents can look out for are like difficulty with rhyming. So if a lot of kids are rhyming words like relatively easily, and then your child or someone has an issue with that, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's something there. And I think it's really important as caregivers, as parents, you're not diagnosing your kid. You're not saying, hey, you definitely have a learning disability, or oh no, I don't want that stigma attached to my kid. It's then you reach out to their teachers, you reach out to the counselors of schools, reach out to organizations. You can reach out to us or any of these organizations up here, and you can, they'll be able to talk to you more about like some specific signs that your child might be exhibiting, and then you go from there. But there's a lot of things that you need to take into account. There's environmental factors where, like, if children aren't sleeping well, then their ability to read might be just reduced. There's cultural, there's economic. A lot of what we've been talking about is that time. You know, like if you don't have the time to read, and then you're going into school, you know, and all these other kids are reading a lot, and you're coming back to, a child's coming back to your house, and you're asking your kid, like, oh, how are they, you know, oh, how's school going? And it's like, oh, well, all the kids, you know, everyone's reading, and I'm doing, I'm not doing a good job at that. Then that might be a sign that it could be a sign for focused on a learning disability. It might just they might just need extra support. So I think it's really important to find these things early on and just make notes of them, and to create these special environments where you encourage reading. And we should never discount audiobooks. I am someone, I do not like to read because it's hard, and I have a hard time just reading. My reading level is incredibly low, but I love audiobooks. And so, like, when I was little, a lot of times, like, culturally, it was like, oh, audiobooks, that's not reading. And it's like, well, it's reading. You're listening to the stories. You're still consuming the same information. And so, like, if your child is having difficulty reading, introduce some of these other things, like audiobooks and like shows, and even like YouTube learning. Like, it's just all so wonderful. There's so much stuff out there that we can consume that we didn't have 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Thank you so much. You know, you said something again that made me think, and I kind of forgot about it, but it came back. How early can you kind of see that something's wrong with your child? I mean, we have this young baby right here. What should she be looking for?
So it's point? Just developmentally, there's a whole spectrum of when kids should be, like, start saying their first words, when they start learning to read. Are they having a difficult time remembering what letters are, or like what sounds they're making? These are all things that you should be able to start identifying as, like, early as, like, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. In third grade, that's when comprehension starts, where it's like, okay, so you might be able to say the words that are in front of you. You might be able to read that sentence and that paragraph, but are you able to comprehend it? Is your comprehension there? And these are multiple things that that parents can start looking for early on. But I think one of the most important things that I think is pretty tangible is if you're teaching your kid how to write their name, and they're having a really difficult time with that, and they're going into kindergarten, and they have a hard time spelling their name or remembering the direction of the letters and how they're writing it out. These are all things that you can say, oh, well, these might be signs of learning disabilities. But it also is just really important. We're not diagnosing, we're noticing some of these signs that are there. But it can be as early as kindergarten, and you can start seeing signs earlier than that as well.
And that's why it's so important to have the parents or the caregivers involved with the education of the children. Thank you so much.
Can I expand on that a little?
Yeah, please.
So I would actually say let's go way earlier, because again, if we're thinking about language, if we're thinking about language development, we can see a lot of these things. There are certainly learning disabilities are not going to be diagnosed probably until, I don't know, second, third grade. But if we're thinking earlier, comprehension is happening earlier when it's related to language. Language and sound, speech and language impairments can absolutely be diagnosed right with babies. But again, it's not about the diagnosis. It's also about do we notice it and are we getting the supports? I think so much of this is about, like, literacy is so complex. It literally is everything. And it's not always possible for us to do every single aspect of all of these jobs, but we have to know who to talk to, where the resources are, how to connect, and to see it, right, have this collective responsibility of like, I want to make sure all of my kids, if my nephew is one right now, and I'm noticing he's not making consonant sounds. He's still babbling. They're still like developmentally, he has like a wide range of years ahead of him, but I'm paying attention, right? We're gonna think through, when do we talk more? When do I talk about this with an expert? When do I not? When are we just really enhancing what we're talking about at home? So I think all of those things, all of us having collective responsibility, right? Knowing who the reading specialists are at school, I'm gonna connect with them if I'm thinking about phonics, if I'm noticing these things. And then noticing, so there's a lot of developmental and contextual things that we wanna make space for, while also having that collective responsibility.
Right.
Does that
That's
make
why
sense?
it's so important when they're so tiny, that phonemic awareness before they jump into the phonics is so much better. Yes, that's the, go on,
I
please.
would like to add as well, thank you, Dr. Spear. Please also consider keeping in touch with your child's teacher. We do a lot to provide professional development for our teachers so they know those if-thens, if there is a child who is presenting in a certain way, how to respond. But even before that, we utilize universal screeners for our students, so we're able to be proactive. And so as educators, we don't have to wait until there's an issue. We do our universal screeners beginning of the year, so that way if there is something that we didn't know about or has happened, that we can intervene immediately and quickly. And within that school setting, it's not just the ELA teacher or reading teacher. I'll quote Dr. Louisa Moats because I love her. Teaching reading is rocket science. It's a really complex skill to acquire, but also to teach. And so while we empower our educators, not just our ELA teachers, but also we have reading specialists in our schools. We have literacy academic coaches in our schools. We have so many supports built in that can provide those supports. So please, as you are working with your child's school, please make sure you ask some of those questions about, well, even all the students get the screener, not just our students that we have concerns with because we don't want to miss anything. So all of our students have that experience where they can even see what they're doing really well with, what they're going to work on for that school year, and how they're going to work collaboratively with their teacher and other teachers to get that work done. So we are very excited that we have some of those systems in place, and our teachers are excited too that they have the confidence to know what to do with the students if they present any challenges, and they would love to partner with parents to say, here's what you might be able to do at home as well. So I think to expand upon the question relative to students who might be at risk for future reading difficulties, it's critical to stay in touch with the child's teacher in school and see where incrementally they're working on over time and what you can do to support that success.
And early childhood teachers, pediatricians, right?
Yes.
Like this is where that's this like collective piece, right? So that it's not only when we get to kindergarten.
For sure.
Then we have that team and we know what to look for and we're working together.
Thank you. I personally think that every baby that goes home, newborn, should have a book with those instructions and everything else, because that's where it starts as far as I'm concerned. Thank you so much. This can go to the group or Caitlin or whoever. What are the systemic barriers to literacy, and what can we do to help dismantle them? Anybody?
You guys want me to start? Okay. All right. So I think about this a lot, particularly with our 3 hours work. As I said, literacy, when we're thinking more broadly, if we're thinking about language as this natural, fundamental human process, and then literacy as something, or reading, specifically as something that children need to be taught, right? Kids need these opportunities, but if we think about all of this developmental trajectory pieces, we do not live in a country that has universal, high-quality early childhood education for everybody, so that would be a huge place. That is a huge systemic barrier. So much around literacy development can be happening in the homes and in our community, and again, when we have this collective, we have so many resources in Allegheny County, but we have to recognize that they are not being distributed equitably because not all kids have access to all of these places and all of these things, particularly through early childhood. So that's something I think about. And then again, the quality of instruction in schools. We have opportunity gaps. We have segregated context. There's all of these things that are really part of it. So ensuring that all children are getting access to that and to adults who understand all of our roles, how to work together, have the language and the resources to do that work, I think is really important. There are things when I think about language, we were talking about language development. I think in our schools, right, if I think about language variation, we have ESL supports for kids who are speaking a second language. We don't have specific supports for kids who speak language variations necessarily. So if kids are speaking a dialect, there's a lot of actual code-based work that's going to differ across language variations, and we're not really training our teachers and providing insights onto, like, how can we do that? How can we notice these two differences in language and teach in both ways and teach in this cohesive way that's going to help kids develop those code skills that they need. There's a ton of other pieces like that, looking at what's in our curriculum, I think. So I could go on and on, but I think those are a lot of key places to start.
Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Okay, yeah. So one of the things I'd like to add to this is just like a part of when we first initiated a reading intervention program, and this is led by Carrie Gardner, who's our COO and also the co-founder of LDA. And one of the things that we realized was we were offering free reading instruction to lower income households. And we had a lot of people signing up, and we were situated at Pittsburgh New Church School, which is this great school that helps kids with dyslexia, but it's in Point Breeze. And we started to lose some of our first students because they didn't have reliable transportation. And that's something that I have never personally experienced, and this was something that, like, Carrie and I, it was like breaking our hearts. And we would say, like, oh my God, or this family, we're not charging them anything for tutoring, but they're spending $30 on Lyfts or Ubers, both or each way, or in total, $15 each way. And we're like, we see your W-2s, we see your income, and it's like you shouldn't have to pay to get tutoring support. And so then Carrie was like, well, we need to get into neighborhoods. And so it was that idea. And because she was working with Macedonia Face at the time, which is an awesome organization, you all should learn more about it. They were situated in the Hill District. And because Carrie was participating in meetings with them for an entire year, she raised her hand one day and was like, we offer reading instruction. It's in this other neighborhood, but we're going to modify it and put it in the Hill District. And this was a few years ago. In our first year, we tutored maybe 13 or 14 kids, and now we're up to, this year we're going to tutor about 170 around different areas. But we also trained people within the neighborhood. And Lainey is one of our, hey, Lainey is... Lainey's awesome. Lainey was literally in our first cohort of early literacy tutors. She lives in the Hill District. We taught her, and now she's our community lead of the Hill District, our head early literacy tutor, and she trains new people. And it's like you get into communities, talk to them about what their needs are, and training people within communities these different techniques so it's relevant to them, and we can provide that support. And so this is what we're trying to do to remove or to make reading instruction more equitable. And it's not just saying, oh, here is a neighborhood with fewer resources. It's saying, okay, so here are some of the neighborhoods with fewer resources than others. And so then it's reaching out to stakeholders and saying, hey, what are your needs? And what are you interested? What are the reading programs or the other programs that your organizations or things do? And how can we help? Or, we have our expertise in reading instruction. So it's how can we add to what you're already doing? And so I think to really break down those barriers, it's the people and the organizations that have more privilege, and a lot of it has to do with money. But it's following that and saying, okay, well, how can we support what you're doing? And it's a slow build, and it takes a really long time, but it really is. I think these are the small steps that we have to take to really break down these barriers.
Great. I'm so happy that you just, went into the neighborhoods that couldn't come to you. That's really passionate about your program. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything?
Can I just add,
Sure.
I agree with everything that you said, Collin. We at the library think a lot about access, and we know that, being a physical building is, we already exist in the neighborhoods we exist in, right? Access is a very real issue. So transportation issues, even just when we're open and having expanded our hours and just being available later in the evening and on weekends when families, hopefully, if they have time, find that time to be able to access us. But we do know that, I think it's 40% of fourth graders across the country that are reading at grade level. So we're talking about 60% that are not. And that percentage changes drastically when we look at subgroups, right? Like across race, socioeconomic status, students with disabilities, English language learners. And those are not, those factors are not causing the literacy rates. It just feeds into such a complex problem, right? It is everything, like I keep saying, like we keep saying. And like Collin was just saying, we're not going to fix it overnight. It's not an easy solution. It's not an easy fix. We're talking about generational poverty. We're talking about, generational wealth gaps. There's so many factors that go into this. And one that I think of a lot, the schools and what they're doing is incredible, but it means nothing if the child is not there. And so chronic absenteeism, is constantly something that we talk about. We want to do outreach and we want to be in the schools, but we're reaching more kids who aren't coming to the library maybe, but we're not reaching maybe the hardest to reach if they're not there that day. And so when we think about whose job is literacy, but also whose job is chronic absenteeism, right? And what is the role that we can play? And we do a lot in that area where, our library staff, many of whom are here today, they have a spiel, they have tactics, they have, interventions that they do when they know this is not a day that PPS is out of school, and we, what are we going to do to intervene? So just many, many factors. And I also love what you were saying about community, that like input and community co-design, because as you can tell, this is just a sample of the organizations that exist in Pittsburgh. There's so many organizations. There are so many experts, so many, philanthropic resources. And I think this summit is an amazing opportunity for us to take one more step in working together more. And, those partnerships are so fundamental. We have partnerships with everyone up on this stage. But to do that more and to make that, that neighborhood specific, because we know every neighborhood here is unique, and they're not blank slates. We're coming to neighborhoods that already have a lot going on. So I love what you're saying about that community input, because it's so fundamental.
Can I add on one more thing?
Please do.
I completely agree with Erin and Collin about, how we need to bring whatever resources and skills we have to kids and families where they're at. I know we think about that a lot at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh with our story mobiles and our teams that are going into schools in neighborhoods that we know kids need the most support. But I think one other barrier I think about, and I'm really energized that we're having this summit at this point, is we can't become comfortable with the current state of children's literacy. We've been talking about it for a long time, as Dr. Moye mentioned, and the progress has not been made, and that's just not acceptable. The statistics that you cited, Erin, is not acceptable for our kids. And I think as Dr. Moye challenged us, right, we all can do a little bit more, and when we look inside of what we have to offer, we have to make that commitment now. We have to go meet kids and families where they're at and provide whatever we can, because it's just not acceptable. And that's another barrier. I feel like it has been in the current state for so long that it can become used to it. That 43% proficient is what we're used to, and it's completely unacceptable when it needs to be 100%, and we have to figure out how we support every kid. So I appreciate all you being here and taking the time on a Saturday to listen to all these speakers And I appreciate the chance to be here because we all need to continue working. It's all of our job because we just cannot accept the current state of literacy in our community and our country.
You're so right.
Yeah. Yes, I would also like to add a potential barrier that we don't always lean into, but one that we are thinking critically about in Pittsburgh Public Schools is belief systems. And so if we don't attend to belief systems for the adults that are servicing the students, then it could become an issue with our children not be exposed to complex text or being exposed to rigor. And that's so critical. So as community members, as parents, as caregivers, please engage in that conversation with your child's teacher. The children, like we said, K through 5 will have opportunities to engage in language-based experiences with phonics, MOOC awareness, but then we get into comprehension and we get into analysis, which I get really excited about. But we do want to make sure that all of our students, not just our gifted and talented students, our students in certain neighborhoods or zip codes, but all of our students have access to the same quality material, but also it's racially in terms of the racial representation is there, and we train our teachers also on those moves. So we are grateful we have an equity department that partners with us. So as we are asking teachers to engage our students in this complex work and engage students with maybe topics they're not as familiar with, we have additional colleagues that can guide teachers through that process because all of our students deserve to have access to rigor. All of our students deserve to have access to complex work. And that might take a little more scaffolding for some, and some are ready to go. But we do want to make sure that's afforded to all of our children. And so that's one of the things that we have been really compassionate about in terms of identifying a potential barrier. Because if your belief system is that these students are not able to attend to this text, you may not put it in front of them, and that's not acceptable. So we want to train our colleagues to make sure that this is something that all of our children deserve to experience and will experience. Here's a way that we can scaffold them into the process or support them throughout so that they are able to engage in the work at a high level. So we are very critical in our lens around that, but still working through that with our partners.
Thank you so much. You know, my passion is early literacy, birth to 5. And I hear some of the parents in that age group, that child's age group, say, I don't send him to child care or daycare to play. I send him to learn to write his name. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about children and play? And is it possible that they can learn something through play?
Sure. Yeah, they learn through play. Play is so critical. And I think I'm going to keep going back to, because I love what you just said there. Like, we have to, part of our collective job is to believe that all children are capable. And to give all of our kids all of these opportunities and not other people's children, like Shallegra was saying. Like, these are all of our kids. This is our community. And I think, Shallegra, your point of like, what am I doing with my kids? My kids are playing in intentional ways, playing with language, right? Playing with words, playing with sounds. Again, there's so much learning that happens. Kids are hardwired to learn through play. And that doesn't stop when they're 5 and they go to kindergarten. More play in schools is great. And we have a lot to do because we got to add in their explicit systematic phonics instruction. We got to give them access to complex text. So all of that is part of it. But play is absolutely a critical role, and so are relationships, right? I think we're thinking about the power of screens. We're thinking about all of these things. There's a lot. These are all tools, but understanding where kids are developmentally, kids learn through relationships, and play is a critical tool in all of that. So I think there's absolutely space in early childhood to do work with letters, work with sounds, read as many books as possible, but also letting kids play is huge.
Laying that foundation so when they get to kindergarten, you have less to worry about. Yeah. We're almost closing. We have about maybe 12 more minutes. But I would like to ask you all, and you probably answered it already, if you had a magic wand, okay? And could wave it around, to change or do anything in our Allegheny County early literacy ecosystem, what would it be? Or something like to lead into action. What? Magic wand, what we gonna change?
I feel like I already mentioned. Let's get some free early childhood, high quality, universal early childhood up in here. If we're thinking big.
Yes, and I think that would mean also a lot more money to give to the teachers so they can be enthusiastic about coming to school.
I think,
Who's that?
I was gonna say, and I've been reading a lot of Harry Potter, so
Real magic.
also, so magic. If any book that a kid would be excited about or engaged or see themselves in could just apparate and just appear in their hands, and there was an adult there who could read it with them or talk with them about it or help them read it, that would just be so powerful, thinking of that access. Any book that excites you and the adult support to read it, that'll help develop a love of reading.
I have heard recently in a Teach My Kid to Read webinar that by the age of 9, if a child is not on track to read proficiently, that they won't. And it's not because we don't have the science or the know-how or experts to be able to help the child, it's because of stigma. And that really crushes my heart. And I think, we talk so much about it starts at birth, right? But what about those 60% of fourth graders now, or that 63% of 12th graders now that aren't reading at grade level, let alone adults and anyone at any age, thinking about older readers that are struggling, and adults that struggle with literacy. So my magic wand would erase that stigma, because I think there's so much we're learning about the brain, and there's so much coming out. We're really hopefully getting out of the reading wars and into consensus, but how does that help when that stigma still exists, and those who are already older and we're later than the implementation of structured literacy and science of reading elements.
Love it. I think for me, I would say I would like for all of our children, all of our students everywhere to be confident. Because when our students are confident in what they're doing, they're willing to take a risk. They're willing to ask questions. They're willing to go deeper. I was visiting a classroom last year. I get to visit classrooms all the time. I'm very fortunate in that way. And I went into a second grade classroom, and a student didn't know who I was, which was beautiful. I knew his teacher really well. As I go into the classroom, he comes up to me and says, "I'm a reader. I'm a really good reader." And I said, "Yes, you are." And I said to him, "Well, let's read together, right?" And I said, "What if I was brand new to this school and I was in second grade and I wasn't sure how to read? What would I do?" And he said, "Don't worry, I'll help you." And I was just so taken back. I still get chills thinking about this young man. And we were reading our decodables together, and it was just such a great experience to see how excited he was to show what he could do, how he could decode words that were challenging, and even his word attack skills, if there was a multi-syllable word that he wasn't quite sure of how to pronounce. And so that confidence, both for our students, the confidence our teachers are now getting as they're deepening themselves in the science and the implementation, is priceless. And I'm just so grateful that I can see that and be part of that. And also think about how we can encourage and build up our tutors in that way, and how can we build up, Erin and I are partnering with some parent meetings for the Carnegie Library. So thinking about how we can expand that level of confidence in literacy and reading, and knowing that our children can do this work, and they must do this work in order to be, functioning in society, and that's so critical for us. And so our lens is there, and we're grateful. But my magic wand would be confidence and excitement.
Anybody else have a magic wand?
My magic wand would just be more empathy, where and making sure that we're all not just living in like our own bubbles, and being able to ignore other things that are happening. And I feel like when we talk about literacy and like the access that some of us have and others don't, realizing that there isn't, because we don't have these universal education, early literacy, any of this, any of these things, a lot of us just assume that it's like, oh, someone else can't read. Oh, well, they must not have been trying. And it's like they may not have had access to it. They might have a disability that prevents them from doing this. There might be all of these different reasons that we don't understand. And so it's like opening up the bubbles that we live in to build this empathy, I think, is really critical to the work that we're doing. So we're not just, sending our kids to college and telling other kids to go to other programs that aren't us, like Dr. Moye said, that these are the things that I think are so important. And I think that just fundamentally empathy is one of the things that I just wish was just more universal, so like we can build this understanding of how everyone is feeling, and I think that has a direct that would have a direct correlation on literacy across communities.
Thank you. Well, in closing, I would like to offer this to the audience, to the panel. Whose job is children's literacy? What roles do we each play in shaping the literacy development, and why are they important? So when you leave out of here, think about these things, because it's all of our jobs, not just one. Just when you greet a child, hello, hello, when you see them and they're walking and you're like, oh, I like your shoes. Any type of connection helps start to lay that foundation, right, Mary? I learned that from her. All right, thank you so much. This was our first. Hopefully we'll have one next year or whenever. And I'm still nervous. Yeah. All right, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Tremendous job. Thank you, thank you. That was a round of applause, please. Thank you. That was great. And it's been an amazing morning. Thank you, 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 thank you. From this, we've heard loud and clear, it is all of our work to do together. And how? So we offer a call to action that we have developed together here at the library and with our partners, that are actions that all of us can take, and actions that all of us can take every day, and in our own ways, and in our own contexts, in our own organizations, and our own families. And they're on the screen now. So, will you read the call to action with me? These are the 4 things that each of us will do, and that we will go out into the world encouraging others to do. First, get a library card. Next, have books in your home. Next, be a reading role model, and read together every day. Let's say that last one again together. Read together every day. Now, we are going to have a 35-minute break, and we will reconvene at 12:30 for an amazing, amazing author presentation by the incredible John Shu. So thank you for a great morning. Keep the conversations going amongst yourselves here in this room. There are still refreshments outside. The resource fair is opening in 5 minutes on the 2nd floor of the library. Visit there, and we'll see you again at 12:30. Thank you.